Great. Okay, we're gonna bring up another guest to the front of the room. We're gonna bring up a young lady who I just met. I can't wait to know more about her. Her name's Miss Codie Sanchez. Let's give her a big round of applause.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, can everyone say hi, Codie?
There we go, guys.
Yeah. So I personally don't know that much about Codie other than about a 5-minute conversation in the back. So I'm just going to have her tell us where it is you started from and where you are now, and kind of just go wherever you want for about 5 minutes and just tell everyone about you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I love seeing all of these faces. Oh, all right, guys. I love seeing all of these young faces in the crowd. I'll tell you the fun part first, which is I run an international investment business, which means I play with money for a living, right? I invest with startups. So some of these companies that you see on TV where there are just a bunch of kids in a garage, I help them get funding, I help them get money and help their dreams get realized. And then I go around a lot. I'm Latina. Are there a lot of Latinos in the house today? Yeah? All right. I know there's more than that. I see you out there. All right, here we go. And so I work a lot with Latinos, particularly. I come from a family of immigrants, so I talk a lot about how to, all right, ladies and gents in the front. Yeah, I see you. Okay, I talk a lot about how to realize your dreams as Latinos today, because it's a huge movement for all of us who come from diverse backgrounds. When I'm not running around the US and in business meetings doing all of this, if you guys know some of the things like Forbes, Entrepreneur, some of these business websites and magazines, I'm on there writing stories about building businesses. How many people in the crowd want to build a business one day? Wow, that's amazing. Give yourselves a round of applause. Good for you guys. You know, the cool part is, yesterday I was at an event, actually. Do you guys know the company HP and Intel? They're in San Francisco, not too far from here. Yep. So I was speaking with their COO the other day, and she told me a really cool stat. She's a woman, which is also rad. She told me a statistic that your generation, 65% of you, will have jobs in industries that don't exist today. That you guys will have more jobs building your own company than any generation before you. And I just think that's kind of cool. Because another thing that she told me is that in your hand, how many of you guys have iPhones? Lots of you out there? Yeah, okay. So if you hold out your little iPhone, do you know that thing has more computing power in it than NASA had to land a spaceship on the moon? Yeah, it's true. Think about it. So the cool part, I think, for all of you is we're going to talk about dreams and how to build them and all that jazz. But for all of you, we talk a lot, maybe you've heard it too if you're from a diverse background, or maybe you don't have a ton of money in your family to fling around. I didn't. My parents didn't get a chance to go to college. But we talk a lot about privilege, no? And sometimes I think we think maybe if I don't have that much money, or my parents didn't go to a fancy school, or maybe I haven't achieved all the things that I want to, we think, well, how can we? One of the cool parts is you guys have at your fingertips enough power to land a spaceship on the moon. Privilege is kind of democratized, meaning it's available for all of us. So what I'm really interested to see from each of you is what you want to do with it. When I was a journalist, I was on the US-Mexico border. Anybody here from Mexico or have family from Mexico? Vamos. ¿Hablas español? Ah, that's a big thing these days, guys, speaking two languages. But what's that? All you guys speak Spanish. Bilingual, you'll need to use that. Well, my last name is Sanchez, so I speak Spanish too. But when I was a journalist, what's that? Okay, so when I was a journalist along the US-Mexican border, I saw real struggle and real strife. And I don't know if you guys have seen real poverty, like people living in cardboard houses, violence all around. We heard some of the stories up here about violence in the streets in America, but as Americans, just baseline, there are kind of no excuses. And so we don't have the same problems that generations before have, because have you guys ever heard of Khan Academy, for instance? You guys use that in school? Ah, okay. Okay, so what if I gave you guys some homework, like right up front when I'm supposed to be talking about myself and none of this other stuff? Okay, what if the homework is kind of fun, though? You'll do it? I like you. Okay. See who's going to be the future CEO? This chick. What's your name? Selena? Nice to meet you. So what I would really, really call to action for each of you is we're going to talk about dreams, right? We're talking about plans. We're talking about taking action. But the decisions you make today, they echo for years. And at your fingertips, you have things like Khan Academy. You have Instagram. Is everybody on Instagram? Okay. Now, people talk some negative stuff about Instagram, and they talk some negative things about social media, but never before could you reach out to somebody who's a role model for you and ask them a question, ask for their help. And guess what happens? They reply half the time. Have you guys ever reached out to somebody who is a role model for you? You have? On Instagram? What happened?
You didn't get an answer. Exactly.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, number one of all time is a thing called pleasantly persistent. If you don't get an answer the first time, you have to ask again. Rule number one, always. And so what I would implore you to do, what I would really ask of each of you is to go home, check out Khan Academy. Even better, do it on the bus ride back. You guys all have to take one. And DM somebody. It can be me. You're sitting up here with somebody who has, I've raised billions of dollars in investments. Billions is kind of a big number, right? I don't have billions. I've just brought a lot of money to other people's companies. But you have somebody here who can help you reach out to other companies. The guys in the back, if you guys don't know Tim, who founded this, Tim's a rock star. He knows not only the power of propelling yourself through positions of power and money, but Tim also knows all about connections, about building a network. Have you guys ever tried to build a network outside of your community, outside of, no? How do you do that? It's a good question. You can do it online. That's a good, anybody else have an answer? How else could you do it? That's good. Yeah. Say that again, my friend. What'd you say? It's Dan? You had an answer. I know you did. I heard you. All right, Dan's feeling shy. That's okay. Okay, so how can you do that? Let's make sure we answer your question. So if I tell you how you can do it, are you going to do it today? Why not?
Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow.
Well, guys, there's a rule my father told me, which is you cannot teach desire. And so the problem is, and I'm gonna be tough with you up here, is that if you guys don't decide to do it for yourself, here's the cold hard truth. Nobody's gonna do it for you. There's NASA at your fingertips, but you gotta actually press the button to launch the rocket ship. And so that's where you get your chance to decide if you want to. Now, how I build a network, super easy. On Instagram, I reach out to people that are just a little bit outside of my reach. And I do that through direct messages. You guys are so much smarter than my generation is, actually. Because you know how to do funky, funny videos and overlay music on them. You know how to do like GIFs and how to put, funny quotes and memes on them and everything. So do one of those for one of the people that you respect a lot. Maybe do a video a week. Does anybody in here have a website? Good job. What's your website about? YouTube. You have a YouTube channel. What's on it? Oh, is YouTube cooler than websites? Yes. Okay. Okay, raise your hands in the audience if you have a YouTube. Wow. Okay, cool. So, I have a good friend whose YouTube is called Hype Beast. Have you ever heard of this? All right. So he does dancing. He's a very good dancer. And so he does a bunch of different crazy dances that I could never even begin to do on YouTube. Do you want to know how much money this guy made last year? He made $1.5 million. He's 29 years old. for YouTube. Not to mention, this kid comes from immigrant family. He didn't go to college. He doesn't have any formal training, and he didn't have any background in dance besides learning it with a bunch of other friends. Now, what you don't want to try to do is just go and be a celebrity, because that's really, really hard. You can do that, but be smart, learn the business. So if I was you, if I have a YouTube channel or an Instagram, what I would do is start creating GIFs, videos, whatever, tagging your favorite artists, sending it to them, asking them one question, reaching out to these YouTubers and saying, hey, tell them your struggle. Tell them the story about, young lady, what was your name, who you are overcoming? I'm going to forget the name of the disease. Say it out loud. Yell it for me. Andrea. Andrea, your story has power. Like every story ever told through history was a parable, meaning it was really simple and easy and human. And so, Andrea, if you tell your story to maybe somebody who's well known who also has the same disease, you can Google that in 2 seconds. Reach out to them, make a connection. It turns out that people want to help you once they've reached a certain level of success. It's an ego thing. We actually selfishly kind of like it. So I would do that via YouTube. So, yeah, whenever you're ready.
Hey, who's enjoying this so far?
You guys are sweet.
I love
thought
this, right?
you left me.
I left you because I wanted to just see how you handled it up here, and you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. So, I have a question for you.
Please.
And I was waiting for a spot that I could say, oh, I have a really good question, because I didn't have any great questions before. And here's my question. If they were deciding how to utilize something like Instagram or YouTube or reaching out to someone that they might want to connect with, if they were to, for myself, I always am thinking about how does that connection lead to some sort of a dream or an outcome? Because reaching out to them is just going to be a step along the way, right? Mm-hmm. Like it's going to be a part of the process. So for yourself, when you were, you guys are between 12 and 20 years old, I think is the room. Yep. When you were between 12 and 20, what type of dreams did you have, and what were some of the things that you did to start turning them into reality?
Yeah, well, let's see. So when I was 12, I've always been kind of a nerd, you guys, to be honest.
Does she seem like a nerd?
Yes, Dan to the back of the room, this guy. I've always been kind of a nerd in that I really like learning. And that's only recently gotten cool. But back in the day, my dream was I liked to play business. I would have a little bookstore or a garage sale or whatever it was. And I always thought, well, maybe I could set up my own little bookstore or garage sale, or I could, nowadays I might have a graphic t-shirt company, I could see wanting to do something like that. But my problem, I think, was then nobody looked like me who was doing business. It's hard to think you could actually achieve something if you don't see anybody that looks like you at all. We didn't have women running for president. We didn't have a black president. And so, now we do. And so now people of color and people who look different can achieve. And so my dream at the time was owning a business, but I didn't really know how to do that. And the way that I did is somebody told me that I couldn't, actually. Somebody said to me, at the time, they kind of told me to be quiet when I was asking business questions in a math class in particular. And I wasn't very good at math. I don't know if you guys are, who here likes math? Good, some of you, amazing. Well, I didn't like math because I thought I was bad at it, and a teacher told me I was really bad at it, and I wouldn't ever have success in business. I know. And so I actually painted that on my wall. So don't go home and do this, because you're going to get me in trouble with your parents. But I painted it on my wall, and I said, okay, he says that I can't do this dream that I have. I'm going to use his no as the fuel for my yes, for my dream. And so I would look at that wall every time somebody told me no, and I kept doing that all the way until I, was the first in my family to go to to college. And ever since I was the first in my family to go to Georgetown and to work at Goldman Sachs and to be in finance and all these things. And so I don't know if anybody's ever told you guys, no, you can't. And not like, no, you can't do something bad. You should be told that sometimes. But no, you can't achieve, or no, you're not smart enough, or no, you're not good enough. If anybody's ever told you something like that, I write it down, and then I show them why they're wrong with my hard work.
Let's just get it. How many of you have brought an idea to someone and had them just crush it? Whether it was a friend, family member, someone you'd ever met. Okay, so about half the room. And one of the spots that you and I were talking about earlier was college. Just another quick question. How many of you, she asked you how many of you want to start your own business. How many of you want to start your own business, be self-employed? And how many of you are considering going to college? Okay, so a handful of you. And how many of you are still trying to figure out what the heck you're going to do?
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah.
We're all in the same boat. So now, and this goes back to the question about dreaming. And so Codie, none of her family went to college. So it wasn't something that was built in to the way that she was raised, like, hey, you're going to go to college, here's step A, here's step B, here's step C, and now you're in college. There were many things that you had to do. So when you were, because about a third of the room is considering college, about a quarter of the room is considering business, there's some key strategies around those two, but the main strategy is getting the vision. Yeah. Like, when you thought of going to college and you were imagining yourself there, were you imagining being on the college campus? What were you imagining in regards to creating some sort of a vision that was compelling enough to motivate you to take the steps? Was there anything that you did around that?
For me, there's many types of people. Some people learn through listening or develop, dreams through listening, and so maybe it's music or listening to somebody speak. Some people develop through seeing things, and some people develop through speaking, and some people develop through writing. For me, I don't know about many of you, but I've always kept a journal. I've kept, we used to call it a diary. Now I think the new term is journal. And so my dreaming came out because I would write every single day, if I could, about what I wanted my life to look like. And there's all of this science, you guys, if you're actually into science, but there's all this science that shows that if you write out your dreams, and if you write them out consistently, that this weird thing happens. You can believe it or not, you can call it kind of fuzzy or not, but the more you write it out, the more you tend to believe it. The more you believe it, the more likely it is that you will achieve it. And it sounds fluffy, except it's true. Mm-hmm. And so my way of finding my dream was always writing down exactly what that was. It was, I wanted to go to an Ivy League school, meaning like the top school I could get into. I wanted to go for free. I wanted to go and I wanted to study 3 majors, not 1. And all these things were like ridiculous when I wrote them down.
So they're ridiculous because her family didn't have very much money, and none of her family went to college, and she had no idea how she was going to get there. So she's dreaming these things, writing them down, and when she's writing them down, they're literally, someone might walk up and be like, that's impossible. Like, how is that going to happen? But what she's saying is that by writing it down, there's a unique power that happens that attracts you just by taking the time to write down the dream and become clear on what the dream is. And this is kind of a prep, because in a couple minutes, we're going to give you a chance to ask Codie a couple questions, and then we're going to go directly into an exercise where you actually are going to imagine 1 year in the future and what an amazing life 1 year from right now would look like. What are the things that you would want to have? Who are the people you'd want to be around? The grades you'd want to have? The money you want to be making? So that's just a prep. But so she's talking about dreams, and one thing I love that you said, I really love this. How many of you like to, instead of writing something out in words, so linearly, like instead of writing it across, sentence, 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 how many of you would rather draw a picture to create the vision? Does anyone like pictures? For me, I personally like pictures. Like if I'm imagining an audience, I'll give you an example. If I'm imagining an audience that I'm playing in front of, 3 years ago I started drawing pictures of me on stage with a microphone, and I'm not a very good artist, so this isn't because I'm really good. I would draw like 100 little stick figures with their hands in the air. And what's amazing is, to Codie's point, is that like is literally starting to happen. Like 3 years ago, I could barely sing, could barely rap, couldn't play any instruments other than like drums. And now it's totally different. But just like her going to school, it was like almost impossible. And she wrote it out. She wrote in a journal. I was someone who drew pictures. Did you draw pictures too, in some cases, or no?
No, I'm a terrible artist.
You're a terrible artist. How many terrible artists are out there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got one more question for you, and then we're going to open it up. So you have a question or two ready for Codie. Perfect. Food. That's coming soon. We are 1 hour away from food. Hey, create a vision in your head. Food. So, you know what? Here's what we'll do. We're just going to go straight into questions right now, just based on time and the fact that I can tell that you need food. Okay? I want to take you into consideration. So, who has a question for Codie? Right here. Can we get a mic runner right up here in the front, please? Thank you, good sir. And please stand up. Tell us your name, where you're from.
I'm Daniel, and I'm from Paso Grande. My question is, do you watch Dynasty?
No, I don't. Wait, I'm sorry, why?
It's about business, like family business.
No, I know the show. It's old school, but they have a remix, right? But what's the thought behind the question? I'm just curious.
No, I'm just curious.
Why are you curious? We could play this game all day. You want to go back and forth? I used to be a journalist. Let's go.
Because I'm interested in business.
Because you're interested in business? So is it a recommendation? You're
Yeah.
saying I should watch Dynasty.
Yeah.
I like it. This guy's giving me something instead of even asking a question. Way to go. Who else has a question?
Yeah, who else has a question?
Okay, I want to say, okay, we'll come to you right next. And I just want to say, you guys, I know that days like this are probably tough. You're sitting in class all the time. You're here. It's a field trip. You're like, we're learning on a field trip. Isn't that not what field trips are? Like, I can see the restlessness in the room. But I promise you something, that when you're 10 years from now, 5 years from now, if you decide to actually really quiet the mind, pay attention. If everybody like takes in a super deep breath right now for just a moment, and then you let it out.
Let's do that together. Can you guide it?
Do
Hey,
it again.
She's going to guide us in this. Everyone
So,
together.
You're gonna take in a deep breath, and then let it out. And that's what I do whenever I'm anxious, so you can save that one for later. It helps. But if you take these little moments and you decide to actually pay attention and do something with them, like this guy in front, you're killing it.
Okay.
Yeah, you're paying attention. I'm just saying, if you do that, you are going to be on a stage like this one day. And if you decide not to, then you won't. So you get to make the choice. All right, my friend who made a choice to speak, let's go. What do you got?
What obstacles did you have, like, starting a business,
What obstacles?
like, early on, yeah?
Sure. A lot. Well, I failed a lot. That's the part I haven't told you. Like, I fail all the time. Every single person who has any measure of success fails frequently. So the first business I created totally failed. I mean, like, I raised money for it. It was a fashion company. We ended up making money, but I hated running it. So that business didn't work. I had another business that was a website business. That business didn't work either. I thought it was a great idea. Nobody came. So I think the biggest thing in business that I've learned is, like, what do your friends come to you for? If you're asking yourself, like, what kind of business do I start, or what should I focus on? I always go to a group of like 5 or 10 of my friends and say, like, what do you think I'm good at? Like, what skills do I have? What advice do you come to me for? And then you kind of take those things and try something. And these days you can get a website right now, Wix.com. You can get a website for free. You can take pictures of the art that you draw, all of you people who are artists, post them on Instagram, and sell them without a website for free. So the biggest obstacle for me was I failed in 2 companies. The first job that I went after, I had to interview with 27 people in 4 cities in 2 countries, and I still didn't get the job. They told me to beat it. The Company after that, I interviewed with 5 different people 5 different times. They also told me to beat it. Another time, I was with a company, and I came up with an idea for a job, and they liked the idea for the job, and so I was like, great, I have a new job. And they said to me, no, the job's great, but it's not for you. You're not a right fit, even though it was your idea. So people are going to stomp all over your dreams frequently, but you just have to be kind of crazy enough to say, I don't care, I'm gonna do it anyways. And if you do that, then the obstacles matter less because you're like, I'm just gonna do it anyways. Did that answer your question?
Pull out your pen. Grab your notebook. So yeah, put your pen in the air. Put your pen in the air.
Right after he's done, we'll get it to him.
Put your notebook. And we're going to do one more question. And I want you to look right, and I want you to turn to page number 2. Turn to page number 2. And at the very top of the page, right above Dream It, I want you to write, failure is the seeds to success. Failure or failures are the seeds to success. There's a great saying, and if you want to write this down as well, so failures are the seeds to success. Fail fast, fail often, and fail forward. So fail fast, have as many failures as you can. She just named off 5 businesses that she essentially failed at.
Thanks.
Still good. So failures are the seeds to success. Every time you fail, you learn something. Every time you fail, you meet new people. And the key thing is, every time you fail, you learn something about yourself. And so we had one more question? One more question?
Right here.
And B, can you cue up some music here for just a second? How much money do you make a month?
I like this girl. She asks tough questions. So I'm probably not going to go there explicitly, but good for you for asking. Here's another thing. If you're a journalist, you don't always answer questions directly. I won't ever tell about how much money I make or my age. This is like a lady never tells, no? But what I will say is I was able to pay for my parents' house. I paid off their house when I was 27. So that felt really good to me. I'm 31 right now.
I thought you were 23.
I love you guys.
Okay, who thought that she was under the age of 30? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause for Miss Codie Sanchez. Oh, do you have a question? Sorry, Codie, keep that microphone in your hand and stay right there. Go ahead.
Codie, I'm filling in for my son who was supposed to be here today. He's 13 and he is an inventor. He's also Hispanic. And do you have any advice for this kid who is winning science inventions, first place everywhere? He's coming out with ideas that are brand new. What can I take home to him today? He'll be here this weekend, but any advice, any kind of direction I can give him?
Well, first of all, felicidades. I mean, that is a huge accomplishment, and hats off to you as a mom.
Thank you.
Well, one, I'll give you my card, and I'll make introductions for you.
Okay.
So let's start there, and we'll get you hooked up with the right people who are looking for people like your son.
Thank you.
Second, I would say, for Latinos in particular, for any sort of diverse background, you have a ton of resources at your fingertips. So if you look on any of the major corporations' websites, especially the tech corporations, you're in a great area for this. You're going to see that there's usually diversity requirements they have both for grants, so free money, and funding for startups. Also, incubators and accelerators have youth interns. There's a specific name for them. And so essentially what they'll do is they're looking for people like your son to come in and do these little hackathons. And hackathons are really cool. So you're not like computer hacking, you're doing a startup hacking. And so I would get him super involved with as many incubators and accelerators. So an incubator is like they bring together all these entrepreneurs, these little baby companies that are new, and they help them grow into bigger companies. So they will take people like your son and plug them into companies, especially if he's good at coding, or you said science in particular.
He's an inventor, so his inventions aren't even out yet, and he's winning science inventions conventions everywhere.
Oh, amazing.
However, I don't know how to lead him,
Yeah.
or how to guide him in this.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is your connections. You just want to be, you just want to be the hub to him. You're his foundation, and you want to try to connect as many spokes as you can to the hub.
I see.
So it doesn't matter if you don't know anything about science. All you want to do is introduce him to as many of these accelerators, incubators, Fortune 500 companies, because they're looking for people like him. I'll help you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you can make sure to connect in the back of the room, get information, exchange it.
Thank
And as a mom, I just want to let you know that the fact that you're here is the best way you could possibly help him is by loving him no matter what. So thank you for being a great mom and being here supporting your son. It's absolutely amazing.